So I'm going to go ahead and really quickly share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Great.
Yes.
I believe there may be a typo here. In the agenda that Steve sent me, it says June 24th in Fremont, California. On the OCP website, this event is on July 24th. So I believe this is actually on July 24th and not June 24th. But if you look at my screen here, you can see where to find this calendar for upcoming events, just events, upcoming events. Scroll down, go over to July, and you can register and see the agenda here. It should be a great event, bit of a follow-up to everything that the R&P group went over at Summit. Definitely encourage you to come in person if you can, and definitely start looking at that now so we can get travel approved, etc. Speakers today, moving on to the rest of the agenda, I think we have Richard Simons from Schneider and Harry from Artisan. We have both of you all on today. I see Harry on.
Yeah, Richard here as well.
Great. One of you like to go first? Number one?
If I may, just because I'm a little short for time, if that's going to be all right.
All right. We'll go ahead and let you go first then, Richard. I made the picture. You can share your screen.
Yep. Perfect. So, yeah, good morning all. I'm Richard Simons from Schneider Electric. Should be able to see my screen.
We can.
Perfect. Okay. So we at Schneider Electric, you're probably aware we're going through the process of submitting the PowerShelf design, and of course, in line with that, we will be submitting our V2 rack design as part of the OCP inspired categorization. So we just briefly wanted to share the documentation we'll be submitting and a little bit of background around our rack development. So we are going to submit the V2 design conforming to the 12-volt DC spec. As I mentioned, that's going to be OCP inspired. So for this particular submission, we're just going to conform to the existing spec that's already out there. As part of that, we will be submitting the 3D DWG model, which you can see in the screenshot there. We will have the submittal drawing package. Also the testing criteria, and we've got two sets of testing criteria there. We do have the testing criteria that's laid out in by the OCP specification. In parallel to that, we do also do our internal DVT testing, or our internal testing program that we also have run our rack through. So we'll have two sets of testing there. There is some overlap in a lot of the testing that's called out, but we do make sure that we cover some additional bases as part of our own internal testing program. We also have the specification document, which I think gets shared prior to going through the submission process. So we have that specification document for the particular rack model we're going to submit. And of course, that has an orderable part number that we are going to be stocking these units in both our North American and European distribution centers. And, you know, from our experience and probably everybody's experience, when it comes down to real deployments, there's always an element of customization. So really our strategy for stocking this initially is going to be for POC kind of rollouts or testing from whether it's system integrators or end customers. Because, yeah, we have many different versions of the V2 rack that individual customers have deployed. But in order to put one into stock, we're going to put this one here which is the 41OU with the 2 power zones. So that, I guess, is in a nutshell. I can run through some additional documentation like the spec sheet if required, or if there's any questions, comments, anything missing, obviously I'm all ears to that as well.
So this is Pedro with Huawei. On the rack, you said it's a dual zone rack. Is that what you said?
Yes, yeah.
So what do you mean by that? It's like 12 volt and 48 volt?
Sorry, as in it's got dual power zones, which would allow for 2 power shelves to be installed in the single rack. So no, it is strictly a 12 volt rack that we're submitting, but it's got the space for 2 power zones should someone want to use 2 power shelves. Obviously that can be configured for single power shelf as well. But the design we're submitting the drawings for in the model for, they are laid out with 2 3OU power zones.
Okay, thanks.
How many bus bars? It's a little hard to tell from the drawing.
Yeah, single bus bar in this particular design. So we'll have, it is a bit small, and when we share the documentation, obviously you can see it in more detail, but this will be the single bus bar design.
I'm sorry, you said single bus bar?
Yes, single 12 volt DC bus.
Okay, thanks.
So you said there are lots of options. Do you have drawings, or can I buy a three bus bar adapter kit or conversion kit?
So what, in terms of what we're submitting, we're just going to submit this rack. Of course, we will develop the drawings, and if submissions are needed for the 3 bus bar design, for the single power zone design, for different U heights as well. So yeah, those are all options that we have done. But in terms of submission, that won't be part of the package we submit initially.
Right. Okay.
I guess for me, a question back on that particular front. Generally, like I said, the submission is going to be a rack. It is going to be this particular rack. Is it? Because obviously there can be the 3 bus bar design. There could be different U heights, different depths, things like that. Is that something that is worthwhile submitting? All of the options that come with it. Again, we wouldn't do it with this submission, but it's something that we could work on. Just not sure if that's
OCP
required.
It goes till 10:30. So, yeah.
Colin's wondering if he even needs. But I can be your wheels. Oh, you do? Okay.
Does somebody need to be on mute for a private conversation, or?
Yeah, please go on mute, guys.
I put Jack on mute there.
All right. So this is Phil Picorni. To answer that from Penguin Computing, to answer that question, for me personally, I don't see that you necessarily need to submit all of the options. I'm more interested in, are you going to make those options available to the market?
Yes. So yes is the answer. We will. It's something that we have developed a 3 bus bar design for a particular POC that was done. So yeah, those options are there. And one of the reasons we haven't really submitted multiple designs here is because certainly in our experience, every deployment seems to be a little bit different. But yes, we will be supporting the 3 bus bar design, and I guess I'll call it customization of the OCP based platform, which we're submitting here.
have any more questions for Richard? All right, Richard, thank you very much.
Very welcome. I guess you can take the ball back.
I will. Harry, are you ready to present?
I'm right here.
I'm sorry, Richard, before you go, I guess, did you say that, this is Pedro again, did you say you also were going to submit a PowerShell?
That's in parallel, yes. So I don't know if Rob's on the line and knows the latest on that particular submission, but yes.
Yep, it's through the IC committee and all that. So it's the Project Gemini, the 15 kWn plus one shelf. So that should be good to go.
I believe it's as well.
Yeah, just curious. So but you're not going to show. We'll just have to wait for that one to be released. In other words, you're not going to show any details on that now.
No.
Oh yeah,
no,
it was done a couple of months ago. I think it was in one of the project calls a couple of months ago. But I think it should be on the wiki, I believe, if you want to take a look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, the specs and documentation for the PowerShell are on the wiki now for the PowerShells.
All right, thanks.
All right, Harry, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
You can.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. I wasn't sure. I'm drawing using the telephone. Well, thanks for the opportunity. During the past, about previous sessions, what we presented was a framework for interop, because there's been a lot of requests and challenges as we move on with the OCP, and especially in Iraq when we see multi-vendor, let's say for instance power supplies, and that poses a lot of challenges in terms of sharing, in terms of dynamic performance, so on and so forth. So we started off presenting all the issues we had, and subsequent to that, actually David's son, I don't know if David is on or not, I don't see his name, perhaps he's busy today, from Facebook, he has presented a great document on technical consideration or scope, now from not from a vendor perspective, from a user perspective, like what they would like to see. So, I don't know if everybody has had a chance, and Steve has put that document in the wiki section, and I would encourage everybody to look at it. So essentially what that does is that provides a framework, what they would like to see in terms of mechanical considerations, fan and speed control, in terms of the electrical compatibility, whether the voltage loop, how does the loop, the bandwidth of the loop has to be there, so that the 2 PSUs or 3 PSUs can work and without causing any issues. And same goes for current sharing as well, because, Artisan has, we've been working with many of our competitors together to do the sensing, and we always run across almost always current sharing issues or power up issues, at the startup. So David has done a great job in defining those. So all I wanted to do in today's session is that, the interop committee now, I still encourage a lot of people to join. Currently we have a few members from Delta, a few from Schneider, and Artisan, of course. And what we are trying to do is take that David's framework, and our objective is to come up with specifications. And when I say specifications, ideally for a current sharing circuit, we would have ideally one circuit, and then we define the range, let's say 0 to 5 volts, and everybody works with that, and that sort of makes the testing easier instead of defining the windows. So our next step is work with our partners and come up with specifications which we will be reviewing. And just as a step, in the coming meeting in Fremont, we will probably have a session where we will go through the details and try to work out the details and come up with a framework. And I guess the next ask is to complete the specification and then follow it up with a demonstration as to how that works. So, I just wanted to give everybody a brief update as to what the committee is up to and what we are doing, and what are the next steps. And we will be presenting it at the next upcoming session. That is the thing. So I will pause there and ask for any questions you might have.
Hi, Harry. This is Damir from Schneider.
Hi there.
I was reading the specs and the technical requirements, and although this is a great idea. Just from my perspective, having a mixed units from different vendors to work together, I think that's a very high goal, and it's going to be very difficult to achieve compatibility, full compatibility of different power supplies. I can understand having one vendor in a shelf and then another vendor in the same shelf. That I can see feasible, but due to different dynamics, control loop dynamics, especially during transient events, when it comes to power sharing and other things, it's going to be very difficult to make it all compatible. One example from my experience is worst case analysis, right? So when you're working within plus minus 1 sigma on a distribution curve, yeah, that's fine. But when you're talking worst case situations, you're getting to plus minus 3 sigma. And in that case, even if you design power supplies according to specs, let's say plus minus 1%, worst case scenarios can give you up to plus minus 20%. And I'm just worried that in those situations, mixing multiple power supplies is just going to be nightmare to make them work together. This is just my observation.
I hear you, and I see your concern, and to resonate, that is exactly where we started. But the ask is, and this is something we started off with, and issues that customer faced. But this ask has been put up by our customers that they would like to see it done. I mean, in today's age, I don't know if you see that or not. In a same shelf, an OCP shelf, they want to see vendor A, vendor B, and vendor C working together and sharing very well. And we are running into. You're absolutely right. 1 sigma may be right, but as we go outside the spectrum, we run into those difficulties, and we are facing those difficulties. And I guess we've been tasked to come up with a plan. And you see, I don't know if you've seen the document from Facebook, and what they want to do is which particular areas. And I don't think we should limit ourselves to that. But I completely resonate with your thoughts. It's not going to be an easy task. That's why we need to put our heads together and see how we can do this.
All right.
Any other thoughts or any interest? Anybody else wants to join the committee? We would, definitely encourage and welcome, whether it's the other vendors or whether it's the customers, so that we can get more thoughts into it, and and we can probably come up with a better specs. So you can reach out to me after if you like, and we can add you to the team. So essentially, that's all I have. I mean, in the next session, I would like to present, and I'd say we would like to present our work in terms of defining the specific circuits, recommending specific circuits, let's say with current sharing, with voltage loop and power up, and try to make those into a specification. Like some of the things, like you said, cannot be tested with circuits. Like that's the EMC. You cannot, everybody cannot have the same EMC approach. That will need to be, of course, verified. But we can definitely take a stab at addressing some parts of the circuit. So that's what we plan to do. So if there are no more questions, that's it from Interop subcommittee.
Great, thanks, Harry.
All right.
All right. Does anyone else have any agenda items for today? Any discussion points? Like Phil has his hand up. Sorry, Phil, looks like you're muted.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment about the interoperability that I know, that the ask has been for these interoperable power supplies, but my children wanted a lot of things when they were kids too, and they didn't get them. And so I think you need to consider that the answer to a request for an interoperable power supply from multiple vendors might be no. It's just not something that operationally makes sense. You gain purchasing flexibility at the expense of operational reliability, and that's a terrible trade-off. I don't know, just a thought to throw out there.
Yeah, Damir again here. I think that's a good point you are making. I think if we make a shelf interoperable, I think that's a great goal. At least you can have a second source for users, and they have a choice of choosing different power supplies from different vendors. But having it mixed, I think that's asking too much.
Sorry, it's Harry Soin from Artisan again. I hear you both, and in fact, it may turn out, and whatever you're saying may be true, but in today's age, we are actually testing for many of our customers multi-vendor power supplies in a same shelf, and it's pretty much replaceable. So, you can swap one out and put another one in. I mean, that seems to be the end goal. And perhaps you're right. It may just happen that it may be impossible task, but I guess time will tell at this point. That's all I can add.
Hello, this is Rafael Garcia from Infineon Technologies. I was just thinking the following. Maybe you artisan, right? You're using a specific topologies for your power supply, and you may have certain efficiencies, right, at a certain loads. What happens when someone else comes with a different topology? You might think, yeah, power supply is just a black box. But what about if this guy, by using another topology, has different efficiency points? Do you think this will affect the compatibility by using different vendors in the power supply?
Rafael, it may affect in terms of performance, but look, when two power supplies are working on a higher level, it's either they will interfere with regards to current sharing or startup or things of that nature. But when you're talking about efficiencies, everybody has to meet a specification. So I'm hoping whether somebody uses topology A or topology B, they would be meeting the customer specifications. I don't know if I'm answering your question, Rafael, but meeting performance and meeting compatibility are two different things.
Hi, this is Jack McDonald from Artisan.
Hi, Jack.
Harry, thanks. I think the points that are being brought up are valid, and they are certainly challenges to doing the interop between power supplies within a shelf. I guess Artisan does have quite a bit of experience with this, and I think David, I agree with you, David has done a really good job of identifying the important parameters. Efficiency, probably not as big a concern as dynamic response and matching loop bandwidths and so on and so forth. So that's the objective of defining an interop spec and clearly defining the things that need to be similar amongst different PSU vendors in order to produce reliable interop. And if we can succeed at that, it's really not that much different than producing reliable interop between supplies from the same vendor. So I think we're thinking of it more in those terms and as an objective. So that's what we're setting out to do.
No, it's a very good objective, no question about this. I think we are looking from the reducing to practice that kind of objective and how that's going to work, and we just don't see it, as easy thing to do.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think it's one of those things where, if it was easy, anybody could do it. So hopefully this committee can actually achieve it.
No, I would definitely, Terry Soin again, I would love for you to participate, Demir, and everybody else love to participate because, you definitely bring a valid and a different perspective. And obviously, it's all based on the challenges you have faced in implementing this, right? So perhaps that would certainly help in helping drive the cause and highlighting the challenges, and perhaps team can, find the solutions to the challenges you have encountered.
Right.
All right. All I can say is I think this is going to be a promising session and a lot of interesting debate. I'm really looking forward to that.
All right. Thank you, Harry. Anyone else have any talking points? Not, we can conclude the meeting and give you all about an hour of your day back.
All right.
Thanks, Michael.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.